So as organizations become frontier firms built on what Vasu started us with, intelligence and trust, as organizations make that move, you're starting to see some real changes and some transformational journeys. And so look, over the next 15 minutes here, you're going to hear two secure transformation journeys from two great customers here. We're going to learn about what forced the transformation and modernization. You're going to learn about key security decisions that unlocked progress along the way, and how these leaders are adapting to deploying AI safely at scale. I am joined by Randy, CISO at ManpowerGroup, and Eugenio, Executive Manager at Caixa. Let's dive into what their journeys and lessons teach us. Okay, so let's start here with a question about modernization. So what forced modernization in your industry, and what does your transformation look like today? And Randy, let's start with you.
Well, in the staffing industry, really the transformation, I'll say, was kind of pushed onto us. Our clients wanted real-time access to talent, and quite honestly, the workforce expectations had changed post-pandemic. And when we stepped back and looked at that, we realized that the traditional methods wouldn't work. We couldn't do it at the speed we needed. We couldn't do it at the scale we needed. So we had to step back and make some very, very specific decisions. We started with cloud-based platforms that would then allow us to put the AI capabilities in so that we could do automated recruiting and things of that nature. And what we've identified is previous practices that would take us, days, weeks, or even months, we're now doing in hours. And where we used to be reactive, we're now able to be proactive or strategic.
How about you, Eugenio? Go ahead.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today and with this audience. For the question now, the main trigger that accelerated modernization in our industry was the pandemic. And most organizations, us included, were not ready to deal with the security consequences of the remote work yet, especially when our workstations left the safety of our corporate perimeter to the exposure of employees' home networks. And we made the most logical decision in what we could do at that time. So we started by hardening our endpoint policies. But there was a problem with our plan. Most of our security tools were on-premise, so we only had visibility and control of our endpoints if they were connected to our VPN. And with time and during our modernization process, we corrected that. And today we have a cloud-based security platform in our environment, and that allows us to have a holistic view of endpoints, identity, and data, also with real-time monitoring. So I guess this is what good looks like for us now. We have visibility, control, and the ability to respond at scale too.
Great, that's fantastic. Okay, so look, I know the journey to through such a complex transformation is not going to be completely smooth the whole time. So I'll maybe ask you guys to reflect on the biggest security challenge that you hit during this modernization process, and what decision or action did you take to overcome it? And Eugenio, we'll start with you.
Okay, so if the pandemic was a problem big enough for us to deal with, a couple months later we had a ransomware wave caused by the popularization of ransomware as a service. I think that many of you remember that. And again, we had to make a quick decision. That's when we started using the Microsoft's EDR in our workstations. So we did this by three main reasons. The first one, because it met all of our technical requirements. It integrates with the collaboration tools we already used at Caixa, like Teams, OneDrive, and Outlook. And the third one, but not less important, Caixa is a public bank. So to buy any software product, we have a whole compliance to fulfill. So it takes usually between 6 to 12 months to acquire a new solution. And so we had to take advantage of a Microsoft contract we already had, of Microsoft E5. And by that contract, it was allowed for us to use start with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and of course later we expanded to other solutions too. And this decision couldn't be better for us because we not only improved endpoint security, but also in identity security, data protection, and also monitoring. And we also learned a lesson from this episode that by simplifying and integrating or having a security platform, you have much faster results than try to put together a lot of isolated tools.
Great. Randy, how about you?
So, in a similar way, our leadership came to me and said, well, what's our biggest security concern? What's our biggest risk? And after 5 years of a best-of-breed philosophical approach to our security program, our biggest challenge was really tool sprawl. With every new tool, with every new project, we had new complexities, and that complexity was our single biggest risk. So we took and stepped back to see if we could do an end-to-end solution with commonality, what benefits that would provide. So that was our biggest challenge that we had. What we identified was we were able to, in this shift, create not only the benefits associated with all of the integration, because we were doing like for like in those integration points, and eliminate some of those synchronization and patching challenges that we've had in the past. But because of that commonality in language, we saw greater collaboration amongst the teams because everybody was talking the same language, everybody was using the same tools. So between the increased visibility, increased collaboration, and then simplification, that was really the biggest value that we've gotten out of the opportunity at this point.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Thank you. All right, let's now look ahead and talk about this acceleration of AI that now you're both seeing, and so many of us are. So as AI accelerates, what concerns you most, and what guardrails are you putting in place to sort of safely scale across your organization? Randy?
Well, the biggest thing that we're looking at is we have a trifecta of problems that we're focusing on. It's about, decision integrity, it's about data protection, and it's about operational trust. And our biggest concern isn't about the technology or the capability breaking. It's about the AI influencing or making decisions that introduce bias or have some level of non-compliance associated with them that creates an unsafe transaction, whether that's lost data or some other aspect of what it is we do day to day. So we've put a structured AI governance framework in place that's allowed us to integrate throughout the process data access controls, overall data controls, but also more importantly, it's allowed us to keep a human in the loop. At ManpowerGroup, we use the terminology technology first, human always, and that's something we've embraced through this process.
I love it.
At Caixa, I think that Caixa, but not just at Caixa, but most companies here have the same risks in mind when you talk about AI. That are oversharing in data exposure. I think that's the biggest one. But the good news, at least at Caixa, is that we already had a solid data protection foundation even before AI adoption. So, and this foundation was based majorly in data classification, so we could identify our sensitive data, and DLP policies to control where this data can or cannot go. But to be truly AI ready, there was one requirement missing on this game. That was observability. That's why last year we implemented the SPM in our organization, and it gave us a whole new level of visibility. So now we are able to see where our sensitive data lives, and most important, how AI systems interact with this data. So now that we have security policies, we have data protection, and we have observability, I can tell that we own governance over AI, and we are also ready to scale AI safely at Caixa too.
All right.
Very nice.
All right, let's bring it home here with some advice for the crowd. So I'd like each of you to give us kind of one piece of advice for the security leaders in our audience here. Eugenio?
Okay. So I have two pieces of advice.
Wait a minute.
but I'll be quick, I promise. The first one is if you're on a journey to implement a security platform as we did at Caixa, I would tell you to start from the most critical layers. And in my opinion, the most critical layer is identity. So I think it's useless to protect endpoints and data if you let the key that has access to it all unprotected. And the second one is to, of course, whenever possible, try to simplify your architecture, because as I said before, is by simplifying that you can achieve the best results in your security posture and also to be AI ready too.
All right. Randy?
My advice is to think big, but start small. You're going to have to think about it from end to end all the way through delivery, but bite it off into bite-sized pieces. Everyone's in a hurry, and everyone's talking about how fast to do AI. It takes you twice as long if you have to do it twice because you didn't get it right the first time. So slow it down a little bit, take into account all of those aspects. It's great to think big, and you have to, but start small.
All right, I love it. Guys, thank you both so much for spending some time with us here this evening and for sharing these practical, hard-earned lessons.